Hi, I'm Dr. Lisa Radasta. Welcome to Paws, Play, Wag, Understanding Your Dog's Unspoken Words. In this video, we're going to be talking primarily about stress signals. First, let's think about behavior in general because body language signals are behaviors, right? Behavior doesn't occur in a vacuum. It's affected by the environment, by what you're doing, by what your dog is feeling, also by what your dog has learned. Okay. So every single interaction can change a dog's behavior and change their body language. For example, let's talk a little bit about learning. Let's say that you have a puppy, and every time someone that the dog doesn't know, the puppy doesn't know, reaches for the puppy, the tail goes down. Okay. If that person continues to reach for the puppy, in other words, pets the puppy at that point, the body language signal tail down, which is a signal exhibited when the puppy is fearful, that signal will decrease over time, meaning that it will be exhibited less over time. Okay. However, the puppy still feels fearful. So the puppy has to find other body language signals that are more effective at communicating with people about how fearful the puppy is. Often those signals are biting, lunging, growling, snarling, baring teeth, right? Those are more overt signals that people recognize. And when they are reinforced, the puppy, now an adult dog, exhibits those more and more. So body language has to be viewed in the context of the breed, right? How their natural tail position and ear position may be, what's going on in the environment, what the people are doing, what the dog's doing, what the dog has learned over time. So let's get into it. Which body language signals indicate stress? This is a big one. The avert gaze, the step away, or the look away. And you see the red dog that's on the floor averting her gaze when the German Shepherd's standing over her. What does that mean? Here's another picture, right? Where you see this little white dog standing very tall and forward, and the black and white dog is averting the gaze. Averting the gaze is an ask for space. It's saying, hey, I actually don't want to argue with you, but I can see that you want to argue because your body language is very tense and your muscles are very tight, but I have no intention of arguing. So you see that look away or a step away or a full turn away. The dog is begging for space and does not want to fight. The next one is a lip lick. And this is a common body language signal that people miss entirely. In this video, you're going to see the Pomeranian who's lying on the floor be approached by another Pomeranian. And even though the lighter colored Pom probably has good intentions, the orange or red colored Pom is very nervous. You'll see that because his face is very tense and he also licks his lips. So let's watch. There it is. You see it? Yeah. And he puts his ears back. Then he exposes his abdomen, all signs of stress and disengagement. Okay. Dilated pupils. Now, our pupils are going to dilate, of course, when we're in rooms that have low light. That is a natural function of the eye to get more light in there so we can see well in low light situations. But when your dog's pupils are dilated in a well lit room, and you'll see this very, very often in the veterinary clinic, it means that the fight, flight, freeze, or fidget response has overtaken the natural body response to a high light situation. In high light situations, the pupils should be really tiny. So you can see in all three of these dogs, they have dilated pupils out of context for the light in the room. I want to say the dog on your right is one of my Rottweilers who is now passed away, of course, but she was very aroused because she wanted her tennis ball, which is just off screen. So in this picture, she looks like she's going to do something horrible, but she's really super excited. So pupils can be dilated from excitement, from fear, from anxiety, stress, panic. But if the room is bright and the pupils are dilated, stand back and take note because that means your dog is over aroused, potentially in a really bad way. Inguinal presentation, this rolling over onto the back. So rolling over onto the back and exposing the belly, which you saw also with the Pomeranians earlier, is a sign of disengagement. It's a stop sign. It says, hey, do not interact with me anymore. Now, sometimes our pets learn that having their bellies rubbed is really awesome and they ask for belly rubs, but even in pet dogs, Very often, I see that the rolling over onto the back is a request for disengagement, and you may not know that a lot of people get bitten touching their dogs when they roll over onto their backs. This is a signal that you'll see a lot in puppies. And in this video, you're going to see just that. The puppy offering this particular position as a part of interaction and deference to that older dog. And you can see the older dog's response. The older dog isn't biting at the puppy. They're not paying any attention at all. They're disengaging a little bit. That is exactly the response that we want for this dog to have. Now, sometimes dogs will also roll over onto their backs as play. This is a video of wolves. This is taken at the wolf park and shows you that one wolf being deferential to another, rolling over onto the back, should result in the other dog turning away or walking away. That is a normal response, right? These are wolves, but we're applying this now a little bit to dogs because they have similar behaviors. Okay? So rolling over onto the back is a request for distance and space. And it's definitely not a position that we want to put dogs in. And sometimes you will see dogs roll over on their back during play. That's called self-handicapping. Ears back is a sign of deference. It's a sign of fear. It can be a sign of anxiety or panic. It's definitely something that we want to take note of. This dog is greeting an unfamiliar person. Pupils are dilated, so we know she's overly aroused. Her ears are slightly back, so she's feeling a little worried. This dog's ears are flat back against the head. She is petrified. You can also see that her neck is extended and she's really tense, and her little nubbin, her tail, is tucked. She is really scared. This dog's ears are all the way back, but you can see that classic smile that dogs get when they're playing or happy. So this dog is just overexcited and happy. You can see hopefully how the context is super, super important when reading body language signals. Scanning and hypervigilance are signs of stress. There's really no other way to interpret these particular signs. This dog is fearful at the veterinary clinic, and you'll see that she's scanning back and forth from side to side, even though there's nothing going on in the exam room. This is a sign of over anxiety. Some dogs have generalized anxiety, or sometimes they're just anxious about that individual situation. Here's another dog, hypervigilant and scanning. Panting, which is a sign of stress. Ears back, another sign of stress. What about the stress yawn? This one is often missed. So in this next video, you're going to see in the first part a dog who's stressed. This little dog that you see on your screen now is stressed because she's being petted. And you can see that although she's there in the person's arms, she exhibits a stress yawn and she looks like she's scared. In the next part of this video, you'll see a dog who's just waking up and who stretches and yawns. So take note of the difference between those two yawns. You'll see she has a slow eye blink. She has a big stress yawn. She has a lip lick. She's looking around. Some people look at dogs like this and say, oh, she must be calm and enjoying herself. But now contrast with this dog. He's stretching, he's yawning, his tail is wagging, he looks alert, his body is not tense. Okay, this is a dog who yawned because he was just waking up, and our little dog was a dog who was stressed out. What about the tail? Boy, the tail is a pretty easy signal to see on a lot of our pet dogs. Here's the thing. This is a Labrador Retriever. First, you consider your dog's natural tail carriage. Okay, for a lab, it's pretty much straight out from the back or about 45 degrees from the back. So when it goes higher than the normal tail carriage, we're going to say that dog's aroused. Maybe in a good way, chasing a squirrel, maybe in a bad way, right? Maybe so aroused that they may be aggressive towards someone. When that tail is really curled over the back, so 90 degrees or less, that is high arousal. That is definitely a tail that tells me you do not want to interact with me. As the tail goes below the normal tail carriage for that breed or that individual dog, the dog is showing fear. And when it's tucked, the dog is showing extreme fear or terror. One of the things we see all the time is people getting confused about a wagging tail. A wagging tail doesn't mean that your dog's happy. It means that your dog is aroused in some way, and it means that your dog probably wants to interact in some way, but that doesn't mean in a friendly way. You'll see this dog is a classic fearfully aggressive dog. The tail is up above the back, curled at that 90-degree angle we just talked about. It's wagging very, very fast. The nose is kind of tipped up, and the dog is barking very, very quickly. Also, you're seeing some hypervigilance, right? Scanning, looking around. That's an over aroused dog, not a friendly dog. So here's my final thoughts for you about stress related signals in dogs. Look, you've got to evaluate the body language signals in context. You have to consider what the dog has learned. And sometimes you don't always know what your dog has learned, right? You're not there for every interaction your dog has with every single person or animal in the world. Look for signs of stress even when you don't expect it. These signs are asks for space. Give your dog space. If your dog is terrorized by a storm and they're showing these signs, get them into a sanctuary space, turn on the ambient sound. If it's a visitor, get your dog away from the visitor. If the dog is showing signs like these when you interact with it, step back and give your dog personal space.